going to be playing this because this song is awesome. I don't know if you can hear it, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Today, while I wait for my soup to cool, because I just got done making soup. Actually, I've already had some soup. This is, I drink it in this little small cup. Makes me feel all special. Uh, so, while I wait for round two, my encore of soup to cool off and become edible in the way that it won't burn the hell out of my mouth again, uh, we're going to go over something I probably should have been doing live. I started off by sharing some of the rules development for Saturday Morning Tabletop. And I went in so hard on getting the 1.05 update finished that I finished it. And I published the update. It's live. You're able to go get it. Go do all of the the brand new druid, the brand new martial archetype, create hirelings, beasts, and mounts, the new additions to sorcerer and the monstrous familiar, as well as the creature from the abyss, the darkest creation. All of the additional things that we're working on have been live. What I moved on to now is working on the gear creation toolkit. The gear creation toolkit is intended as a supplement that is going to be available for GMs and GMs only. However, the implementation of the toolkit will irrevocably change how gear works in SMTT. Now, I've been working on this for a very long time, and I decided to publish SMTT before its completion because I've been having a lot of trouble trying to come up with a method for the toolkit to be implemented in a sufficiently easy enough way, which I believe I've overcome that hurdle, and I've been working on it very hard. I have currently, in this iteration of the alpha, 30 pages, and I'm more or less on weapons alone, which is only about a fifth of what I have been working on. I've been working on weapons, armor, trinkets, consumables, and uniques. Other than those five things, or those four things, the final thing is the Golem armor. The Golem armor is not currently part of this alpha toolkit. It's part of a separate folder for the time being. That'll be one of the last things that I work on. It has had some work done on it, but it's really different and not necessarily the same as gear creation. However, it is a very large addition. And to add it to the core book, which is already over 300 pages right now, I don't want the core book to end up becoming this, 1,000-page monstrosity if by me not being aware of the amount of content that I'm adding. I don't want it to be confusing to read. I want it to be easy to read, easy to comprehend, and easily referenceable. With that said, Golem armor is basically mechas. Mechas added in. They are like the midget Power Rangers. To say the least. I don't know if I have. You know what? I'll just try and find where in the hell I have the artwork for some of the Golem armor and share it so you know what I'm talking about. Like how they'll look. They're big, chunky, large, partially metal, partially stone, partially gem. These massive items that if I were prepared, I'd do that. Golem armor. Let me click up some Golem armor. This is a sample of a suit of Golem armor. It's only a sketch. It's not, pardon me, not a finalized piece, but just another set of Golem armor. This is a set of Golem armor with a gnome for scale comparison. Just hold on, I gotta find the other one. This is another one for scale comparison. This is a suit of Golem armor, and this would be its gnome pilot. Golem armor is intended to be piloted by small creatures, and Golem armor itself is of a large size. I'm doing it this way to not necessarily completely off balance some of the larger races while giving some appeal to the smaller races to do some really cool things. Why can't... Oh no, it's here because he's a member of Healer School. This is Lieutenant Wobblecrank's armor. That's the finished look of how the Golem armor would look. There are various designs, and you know, if you want to reskin how exactly it looks, it's entirely up to you. But I have been working on Golem armor, and with that said, this is the second version of the alpha for the item creation. There are going to be, like I said, some fundamental changes. One of which will be the armor proficiency feats, which are now light armor proficiency, medium armor proficiency, heavy armor proficiency, and shields will be replaced for armor proficiency shield and basic armor proficiency. This way, I reduced the amount of size in the core book for how much that takes, and I've added a little bit of a tweak, which will make taking basic armor proficiency more appealing even when you're already proficient with heavy armor. So the idea is you gain proficiency in the next heaviest armor for which you're not currently proficient, starting with light armor. If you are already proficient with light armor, you then gain proficiency with medium. If you're already proficient with medium, you gain proficiency with heavy. If you're already proficient with heavy armor, you may now treat all worn armor as having an awesome power requirement, or an AP rec, of 1 lower, to a minimum of 0. Basically allowing you to wear these heavier armors that normally you wouldn't be able to. And you could get it fairly heavy in with this item creation kit, with all the uniques and qualities and all that. Gnome Tech Armor Proficiency, or Gnome Craft, is another one that I'm working on. I'm not 100% done because it requires me to be done with this iteration of the alpha toolkit. Again, I'm not 100% on armor yet. I'm more working in stages. The first stage is for the weapons. So this is intended as a GM toolkit, not as a player toolkit, because some of the things might break the type of game a GM wants to run. Now, if a GM allows a player to create an item with this toolkit, setting up maybe a few parameters as a maximum cost to the item, that would be perfectly fine. That's up to the GM. No matter what setting, what rules I make, ultimately the world is the GM's world to do whatever they want with. I'm just trying to offer a set of rules and a toolkit to make representing the world in which you're creating easier, and trying to take some work away from you, some of the analytical work. But jumping to that, primarily there are 2 major steps to weapon creation with 2 alternatives, right? Things that don't necessarily need to be done, that can be added into your weapon. But the primary stages are, I gotta go down here, the build. So what kind of build is this weapon? Is it built from easily obtainium? Easily obtainium is basically any material that's easily obtained. There's nothing special about it. It's not put together in any special way. It's just your bog standard mail armor, or steel weapon, or wooden staff. It's simple, right? Then you have cold iron. Cold iron doesn't necessarily increase the cost, because there's a trade-off in what it does. It reduces the damage of an item, of a weapon, and allows that weapon to now affect spirits. Ghosts that have damage reduction, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing to non-cold iron weapons. I mean, it'll be a cold iron weapon, so it'll affect them. Same thing with silvered. Beast Bloods have damage reduction to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-silvered weapons. Having a silvered weapon allows you to bypass that damage reduction. Elven Steel is very costly in the gold department. However, having an item crafted from Elven Steel makes it lighter. It's basically my version of Mithril, except that it's scalable Mithril. It reduces the AP requirement of a piece of gear, melee weapon, mail armor, or plate armor by... See, weapons and armor. The final awesome power requirement for any Elven Steel gear is reduced by half the level. So, for armors and weapons, they have a max level of 10. So if you have a 10th level weapon, you can reduce the final AP requirement, or awesome power requirement, by 5. Because 5 is half a 10. Which can come in really handy. Again, you can get some really crazy stuff. I'll go into that in a little bit. But basically, these are the different builds. Is it built out of easily obtainium, Elven Steel, Titanite? Is it Titan crafted? Is it built from crystal? Is it built from dwarven alloy? Is it a morphic weapon? Morphic weapons are like this. I keep commenting on the Sword of Omens because Thundercats was like my favorite thing. But He-Man's sword is basically the same thing. Chitara's staff is basically the same thing. There's an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon where I can't remember the name of currently, that there was a double-sided sword hilt that could summon 2 blades, and the blades were made of pure light. And one of the things that double-ended blade could do is be separated into 2 separately wieldable swords of light. That would be a morphic weapon in SMTT. It'd be the ability to magically or technologically change what it is, or change its nature to something else. Massive weapons are just weapons and armor made from easily obtainium, just more of it, just layered on really thickly and densely. Skyforge, Dwarven Iron, Strider Steel. I've got a bunch of different builds. Once we get to Arccraft, Magnetomic, Etherforged, Black Powder, and Steam Powered, those are the gnome crafted items. So they highly affect guns and explosives and siege weapons. Then First Age is your Stone Age stuff. The idea for First Aged gear is that weapons would cost half as much, but they follow the exceptions, the listed exceptions here, and trinkets quadruple the cost, because not every, but the idea is that when you think of, maybe not so much Egyptian, but Mesoamerican, South American ancient cultures, the Maya, the Olmec, maybe not so much the Olmec since we don't know too much about them, but the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca, they utilized stone weaponry, like primitive weapons. However, they had a really amazing concept of metallurgy. They were able to craft jewelry, metal, gold jewelry, that was really exquisite and very detailed. So that inspires me to do this, to have the First Age build in the SMTT Gear Creation Toolkit. Essentially, for instance, if you have the current Saturday morning tabletop core rules, there is an item in there called the Stone Fist. The Stone Fist will be a stone hammer, or a First Age hammer with the vampiric quality. Then there's all the groups, the axes, weapon groups, axes, clubs, daggers, fist weapons, hammers, maces, so on and so forth. This is a sampling of how they will be constructed in the final version, because I like how this looks. I might change the layout slightly to make it a little bit more appealing, a little bit easier to read, and a little bit more entertaining for your eye, without making it any more confusing. But an axe is a simple weapon if it's level 2 or lower. Any 3rd level or above is a martial weapon. Also, any axe with the deadly feature is considered a martial weapon. So when you're talking about weapon proficiencies, that's how you change whether or not it is a simple or martial weapon. An axe with any simple or martial axe with either the Arc-crafted, Ether-forged, Magnetomic, Black Powder, or Steam-powered builds is instead a gnome crafted weapon, so it will require gnome craft proficiency. The base damage of an axe is 1d6 slashing, the base size is small, and the AP requirement is 0. These features are the listed features you can upgrade your axe with. You get to choose one feature per level of your axe. And there's up to 10 levels, and these are the listed prices for each of those levels. The prices are, of course, subject to change via balancing issues and feel for the game. Also, if you're the GM creating it, you can completely ignore the price and just make it a quest item, something that they could pick up. The only thing that is important is the AP requirement, because that's how heavy it is to wield, how hard it is to wield, and how much it would apply to the encumbrance to see whether or not a character is over encumbered by wielding this item. As well as the size. There's some stuff, but they're all in smaller parts. I'm probably making it sound more confusing than it is because I'm talking really fast, because I've been pretty amped up all day and pretty excited. I've just been, even though this is barely scratches the surface of what I want to offer for the gear creation toolkit, it's still a lot to go through. Weapons, hammers, maces, swords, blah, 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 a lot of stuff. Eventually, I want to go down to if we go here, this will be, when implemented as a book, all this will be hyperlinked. So with that in mind, this area will be how you get to the hyperlinked versions of what everything means. So Mastercrafted would, pardon me, we'll jump you down to Mastercrafted here. Mastercrafted does nothing special other than raise the weapon's level. It may be taken multiple times, and this makes it ornate. Again, this is a GM toolkit. I have seen players not take Mastercrafted at all unless forced to, in part of some of the alpha testing. So it is incumbent upon the GM to say whether or not something is Mastercrafted. A third level sword may only be Mastercrafted, offering nothing but a price increase and a very, very pretty sword. But it's entirely up to the GM what they want to do. And they could add a whole slew of variety to the game. Something such as a Mastercrafted sword. Let's say the sword is level 5, and it's a 5th level Mastercrafted sword. It has the Mastercrafted upgrade all 5 times, or the Mastercrafted feature, I should say, all 5 times. So it's an incredibly beautiful blade, but essentially it's a short sword, right? It's a Gladius. So imagine a beautifully ornate Gladius with, etchings on the inside of the blade, a design through the fuller, a magnificently crafted handle with carvings of maybe a story, how this great hero with this very sword slew a dragon, or this sword is to commemorate this hero who used a Gladius like this to slay a dragon. The entire sword is etched. The entire story is etched into the blade, carved into the hilt. It is a magnificent weapon, though in combat, it'll be, you'll be able to use it. However, it wouldn't be like a sword that is upgraded to be a great sword with a serrated edge, which is going to deal massive amounts of damage. Thus meaning, like, a 5th level Mastercrafted sword could be used as a status symbol in the game. There's options that can be taken, all of which I want to discuss later on in the book, how to create these things, how to use them, and ultimately how to create cursed items. There will be options for creating items that do not benefit the players. Things that are cursed. Because this is a GM toolkit, not a player toolkit. Just want to get that right. Anyway. So yeah, size increase, size decrease, ornamental head, what it does. I'm not, weighted head, weighted blade, serrated, double-headed, throne. I'm not finished. I'm still working on it. And as you can see, it's already, 6,000, almost 7,000 words and 30 pages in. And I'm not even done with the weapons portion. Armor, I have an idea of armor, but I don't have too many upgrades that I enjoy for armor yet. But just as a sampling of some of the ideas as I add them, I'm adding them from a separate document from the Alpha 1 document to this one, as I do it with a little bit more control, so I know what is going into the game. Some of the uniques are enchantments and runes, power storage. Enchantments and runes will be applied to a weapon. Like if you want slippers of spider climbing, it's simply adding the spider climbing enchantment to a pair of boots or slippers, and then you're done with it. Some of the I don't have dancing listed in here. No, I don't have dancing. Dancing would be, like a weapon attacking on its own. So you could have an intelligent weapon that is dancing and elemental, right? Like a flaming sword. And that flaming sword has a bad attitude and will attack the players. And whenever a player tries to wield the sword, it'll attack its wielder, it'll attack its wielder's allies. As soon as it's let go of, it'll attack because it has a really bad attitude, and you have to actually befriend the sword because the sword is intelligent, right? Or have to have your end goal in line with the sword's end goal for the story purposes. Like the sword wants to slay this one dragon, and it will not be stopped. The sword refuses to be stopped until it's on or at least convinced that it's on an adventure to slay that particular dragon. Not necessarily a cursed item per se, but an item that is not entirely beneficial to the players. Would be, how it's done. The runes. I'm trying to find cool names for runes. These are the names that I have applied to runes that have rules, or the runes that have rules that have names applied are these names: the V, Siak, Nathir, Fortum, and Infernum. I want to fill that up some more, but it's a developmental process. So let's see how something. Should I create something, or should I have my soup? My soup is about the perfect temperature right now, actually. So you know what? Instead of subjecting anyone to watching me eat, I'm going to end for now, and I'll probably be back later, maybe go over some weapon creation, take some feedback as to see, what kind of weapons you can come up with, and if you can come up with the current state of the alpha, can it be created? If not, maybe I'll add options for creating a weapon similar to that, if not that exact weapon. So until then, bye!